T1, the dreaded T1. Because here's the problem on this one, Peter. I feel like the funny thing about this one is I don't feel like anyone's actually hyping T1 anymore. Like, I mean, they haven't won anything for years at this point. They just won the odd LCK. But the funny thing is I actually feel like too many people are almost stuck on whatever it was. Like, I'm going to pick a random number. Whatever it was, week 13 of LCK when Faker went out and they lost all those games. Yep. Dude, even when they came back and they were winning games again, they were starting to look like T1. People kept acting like the team was fundamentally broken and could never be good again. Like, at the end of the day, like, they're not at the level they were in spring. They're still a good team. Like, still got good players as well. Like, they're not all shit. Come on.
I like, so obviously I wish Faker the best return of health, but it's so rare in like analysis of League of Legends history where you can be so clearly proven right about something.
It's the greatest example of A/B testing ever, basically, isn't it? It's what we've all wanted to see. Exactly.
Yeah, because basically my thing about Keria has always been similar to the criticism I had on Knight earlier, right? Which is that this guy is a god laning phase player. He is insane in team fights, but his macro understanding is actually not that insane. Right? And always people have been like, no, what are you talking about? Looking like this dominating T1, and always in the back of my mind, you know, I was saying, you know, that he wasn't as good as Ming or fudge.
Can you give it as an example of what macro thing he's like bad at? Like just as like an example.
Okay,
what would you expect?
His decisions about when he opens side, when he opens mid, how he plays around fog, how he so often like. How often a team, for instance, plays a 2-2-1 setup or a 2-1-2 setup instead of like a basic 1-3-1-1-4 setup, right? So in games where because in League typically you normally play like a 1-4 or a 1-3-1 setup, right? But the really, really smarter teams know when to pull out the 2-1-2. You don't, or the 2-2-1 or something like this, right? You don't do it every single time because it's not good if the enemy team is expecting it, but they know when to do it. And Keria has historically not been so good at that. And I've always, you know, when I've done top 20 lists of player at World, you know, I would have him as like the third best support behind Ming and, oh my God.
Mako.
And I couldn't remember his name. I was like, and people would always be like, but how can you say this? He's so mechanically insane. And we got to see, you know, he's so mechanically insane and he's a god tier shot caller. Listen to the comms.
Yeah, that's what they say.
And and we got to see what he was like as a god tier shot caller without Faker there. And I mean, it wasn't pretty, right?
That was appalling.
So I mean, to me, obviously, like it's kind of a meme at this point, right? That Faker provides so much to the team that we don't see behind the scenes. But I mean, it was kind of proven. And if anything, of this team, Keria and Zeus have the most to prove. Zeus, because he has this, I think he's beginning to get a reputation that he's kind of a bit of a choker.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
dude, when people do that convo, when people do that convo of who is the best top laner, and they go, right, is it like 369 or Bane or whatever? Dude, no one even puts Zeus in there anymore. For real, they act like he's not even vaguely one of the best top laners anymore. Yes, come on.
I wish Zeus was like, Zeus is one of those guys that like I watch him play and I really want this guy to succeed. Like the way he plays, it's like Chovy.
It's amazing. It's Chovy of top lane. Yeah,
it's Chovy of top lane. It's such beautiful League of Legends, and then he just can't do it in a final. But to me, Zeus has to overcome that, and Keria has to like demonstrate that he wasn't like carried by the systems and Faker, right? And you know, for me, this team looks vulnerable. Not because of what other teams are going to do to them, but because of what they've done to themselves at this point. Because, you know, narratives are strong. Like, you know, when you work in Pro League, people start to build this narrative. And what's a narrative on T1? It's 4 guys and 4 like hands or like 4 mechanical players and Faker.
Yes.
And, you know, if that's how they're going to play, imagine a team takes Faker out of the game.
Yep.
Now what? Like, do you believe now that your shot calling was good enough? Like, does Keria, does Zeus, does Ono, do they believe that they can make the winning shot call play if Faker isn't making it after what they've experienced during this year? And to me, you know, we're talking about teams that are vulnerable. This team can be vulnerable, but not because of what another team is doing, but because of what they're doing to themselves. And you can bet that the first time they show any weakness, the entire fan base, and I'm not talking just about the Korean T1 fan base, I'm talking about the Chinese Tier 1 fan base, I'm talking about the Western T1 fan base are going to jump on their backs. You know, it's like, Keria was never good, Zeus is a choker, you know, all of it. And no team will get the same hate, and no team will get the same death threats. And how they handle this mentally is going to tell us a lot about what T1 are being.
That's a very shrewd point, actually, Peter, because the craziest thing is this. If you're actually going on paper, I don't care that they made the final of LCK, by the way. I think on paper, T1 should be like the 5th or 6th best team to win at Worlds, all most likely, right? But despite that, as you're saying, essentially they have the pressure as if they were number one. The joke is they have the pressure like they're JDG. And then I'll add on the other side, which is if you're talking about the other players playing them in the Swiss system, mate, it was bad enough in past years when he was still good. Other players who are Westerners are going to be so horny to beat Faker in a BO1 and to kill him. They are going to fucking go ham if there is blood in the water. Like, this is another team I could see just flunking the Swiss system if the wrong BO1 goes the wrong way. By the way, God forbid they get upset by like a Team Liquid or something. Like we were saying about the fan react, the world will end. Like, everyone will melt down. And in this scenario, you're playing the next day. There's also no time to like decompress from a loss. Like, you just, the very next day, you got to reset and play another team and get your tournament life back on gauge. So I think, actually, that's a good point. Just the actual, like, who T1 are is what the biggest thing battling against them, probably. Not even specific opponent, right?
Yep. And, if it was these 5 players under, like, the KT banner, right? It's just literally the same 5 players, except they play for KT, right? I think I could see this team doing damage. This would be like the
dark horse.
This is the dark horse. Yeah, this is the dark horse. I can see them getting a shock. But under the T1 banner, with everything that means, I think that they are at best the fifth best team in this tournament, and they lose their first game in a best of 1.
Who knows, right? Yeah.
Oh boy, yeah.
So here's. I actually think it's hard to tell the form they're going to come in. I think there's some teams that like it's quite difficult to tell. I think T1's one. I think if you look at the picks that are hypothetically in the mind's eye of people, the T1's quite well suited. Outside Guma, they're pretty good. Like, anytime Lee Sin comes round, like, Owner just, his value...
He's one of his best for sure.
Grows, right? Like, Owner's got problems. He was one of the people that when you remove Faker, you were just like, is this guy world class? Like, people were talking about him as the best jungler in the world, and you remove Faker, and he was probably the person you looked at the most, and it was like, wow, like, that is really awful. That is... And even in finals, like, when I watched Owner, I had like a game where I just like focused on what he was doing on the map. It was some of it was borderline like nonsensical. Like, I don't know how what was.
There's no rhyme or reason as to what he was doing, right?
Yeah, I couldn't like right. Even I'm watching it, Thorin, and I'm trying to be like maybe Faker's like telling him to be here, but it's like even if Faker was telling him to be there, I was like, it's the most moronic way to get there possible. Okay. And it's like I was struggling.
I will just say, look, I'll do one defense, which goes like this. It's a half joke, Kira. To be fair, if you play jungle in T1, your job sort of is just do whatever Faker tells you. I'm just saying. Yeah, historically, that is sort of historically your job. That's like on the job requirement. It's not really like the guy thinks for himself, self-direct. No, in many ways, your job is just do whatever Faker says. Like,
directed by Faker, edited by Peanut. I
mean, the joke is, it felt like Bengi was doing that even when Bengi was the coach.
But look, it's a problem again. Like. I don't know how many T1 fans are going to see this, but like, for stories here, like, I want Zeus to overcome his demons.
Of course,
I want Faker to go out with his internet. Like, I really want these individual players to do well, but I don't want to have insufferable T1 fans for the next year.
I know what you mean.
I'm not watching Fashion Burn.
Not here, though. Not here. I'd like them to make it like deep. I think it's good. It's always great to like see like this team make it like deep. Like, everyone forgets because it's been memory hold. But like, I remember that JDG series was amazing. It's one of the best BO5s.
The semi-final last year, yes.
Yeah.
Mega.
Yeah. And the also the one at MSI GDG T1.
The upper bracket final, it was amazing.
Yeah. The what do you call it? It went to 5 games. T1 had this amazing strategy of like, it's going to sound crazy, but they would like bait out. Like, I call it the slow roll. You bait out a bunch of skill shots and like a team fight set up for the mid lane, and once they've literally been baited out, you just steamroll the other person, and you watch them either retreat into corridors or they actually have to retreat physically like down the lane. And T1 done it to JDG like 3-4 times, and it took even then the best team fighting team at the time to like figure out like, oh, we can't get baited like this, or we just straight up lose the team fight. And then obviously they went and lost to BLG and everyone laughed at them. But I don't know. I think it's so hard to tell. And here's the other thing. World is in Korea. And there's like loads of crazy stuff that happens with like scrims in Korea and all the Korean teams on net. It's a bit like the people that always go and try and do stuff in like StarCraft when they went over and they play in Korea. There is like, I don't know what it is. There's like an aura or something over there. I don't know. That is, we're going to come speak to them later. Them and Damwon, I have no idea like what they teams are even going to look like, because T1 for me are a bit of like a Swiss Army knife. I really think they're going to be skirmished and vision based, because that seems to be like their hallmarks. But I think the strength of how themselves amongst the elite team, it could be anywhere.
But it's, I will just say as a thought on T1, one thing I wanted to say is I just want to echo what Peter said. Just even though I've definitely laughed at T1 and memed on them, because they have become, sadly, because of their fans, like a fucking Korean TSM, where, like, as you say, the joke is, like, even if we want the narrative of the player to succeed, you sort of don't want that fan to get a win. You'd rather they lost. Because I agree with you. Of all the T1 players, like, Owner, he's all right. Like you say, he always has one game in a series where he carries. He also has one game he always ints in a final, but whatever. Like, Kerrier is really good. He just was overhyped, obviously. Faker's Faker, like, he's past his prime. He's still obviously a fantastic experienced player. The problem I have is Guma, Yushi and Zeus, because I've always been a Guma hater, just because it's why I've also low-key hated on Kazi until this year, Peter. I just hate people who play ADC but do it irresponsibly. In my opinion, that is, as my old mate Loco Doko told me many years ago, it's one of the smartest things he ever told me, is your job as ADC is to be responsible with the gold invested into you. Like, if you just die at certain points in the game and int for a death for no reason, you essentially wasted, like, the 15 minutes your team gave you ganks and resources and so I've always thought it's a very apt point. And for me, Guma has been someone more the last year, but he used to be criminal for having like the insane tactical in. The difference is Zeus, for real, when I watch his games outside of the finals, it is sad, Peter. This guy should be in that lineage of like Smeb and Flame and the Shy and the greatest top laners at the best, and notice they're all Korean, that like amazing carry lineage from top lane. But the problem is when he gets to these finals, it's actually depressing. He becomes a different person. He actually is. If people don't get it, he really is a fucking amazing League of Legends player, but he obviously has some sort of performance issue. I don't know what it is.
Him and Light are the biggest actual on-stage chokers I've like ever seen. Like, actually, like, it's, you could put money on it. Him and Light, it's insane the degrees to which their games fall apart. Like, it's bonkers to actually watch it. Like, it's almost to the point where I have now never not seen it, if you know what I mean. Apart from like the first one, it's very, very, very strange.
I mean, the only other thing that I would add for this is, you know, we're talking about like the worst thing that can happen to T1, but let's imagine a hypothetical world where everything goes right for T1. Like they've hired an insane performance coach, you know, like they've learned from their from what happened at Asia Games, you know, the Asia Games training. Like everyone everyone plays to their potential peak. This is a team that can rival JDG, no? At their peak. Like, assuming everything goes right.
So they could win Worlds, technically, right? They could win Worlds.
Yeah, I mean, like...
Theoretically, obviously. Theoretically.
Yeah, but we all know it's not going to happen because we've seen it so many times before.
And also, here's the other reason why, Peter. When you say if it all goes right, you don't mean like one player. Like, we need about 4 different things to happen all at once, don't we? So it's also a lot of things have to happen at once, true, you know?
But mechanically, like...
Oh, they have the capability,
crazy, yeah. They're like, I don't think like some of the later teams, we're going to talk about this later, can win the worlds, but like this is kind of the worst team that I can imagine winning worlds.
Well, I'll give you a devil's advocate reason why actually that isn't as crazy as it might sound. When they are at their peak, one of the best things about T1 is, look, aside from they don't have the best mid laner, they could go through top and bottom. Like, they're not a team that's like limited in that sense. Like, the Meta can't, in theory, completely crush them. Although I will say as a final point, like, I'm surprised you didn't actually pick this up, Kira. The one thing I will say is, like, it does kill me that if anyone is a Western coach and you watch those LCK summer playoffs, please just cynically ban Faker out. Please!
Oh, yeah.
Please! Dude, he can't play that many champions at like a world-class level. Like, you seriously, you have to treat this team like it's BDS and just really cynically draft. If you do that, you have a chance for real. Because if they just let him pick whatever, you saw against KT, they can still win games, mate. They're a good team. But I think if KT had been super cynical, I think they could have draft capped them. That's my take.
And Azir's gotten worse as well, which affects all the players.
It's not the same type of champion, yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's like it's not so much a crutch for like Faker, but like the way like T1 plays, it
was just the style of play, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously the other one is the fact that like It's the new. There's like a new hypothetical era of flexes, and like you can like ban 2, take 1 away, take a second away, flex the second away, and you've actually taken 4 away, and you're just like, well, what are you playing now?
Yes, but we'll see. Problem with that is, like, at this point in time, I really do think just seeing the word faker on a screen has like some hypnotic effect, and just people just like a moth to a flame. They're just drawn to it. They can't not give the guy his bloody picks. Let him get a kill in mid late. Like, no, I can't handle it, mate. I can't. Take the name, play it off. He's just a fucking old Korean guy at this point in time. And also, like we were saying earlier, here's why you have to cynically play against this team as well, Peter. It's like you said, if you actually know what we now appear to know from the A/B testing, that he is the whole brains of the team, I'm going to go spend my whole game plan on making his life hell in mid lane for the laning phase, Peter. Like, let's not let him get to that point. Let's not let him have a moment to think on a shot call. Let's just have him 24/7 be dealing with bullshit ganks and people just going mid with the group and counter picking him all day. Let's just do that all day long. Like I say, let's just fuck with Faker, essentially. That would be my whiteboard game plan. Fuck with Faker. And it'd be like how in draft we do it, how in the game, how in the lane we do it. Just make Faker's life hell. That's my whole plan if I'm the opposing coach.
The old ROTK thing at Doha.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're playing against ROTK at TI, you would just gank his offlane over and over again because he was a shot call.
I mean, the thing is, you know T1 with Faker can beat you, so make Carrier or Zeus beat you. Like,
yes, perfect.
Right? Because if Faker is 0-6, he's not going to be that useful. Make the people, make his teammates shot call him to victory, right?
Yes. See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.